Hello and welcome to Let's Review, and Merry Christmas! Thanks to a little bit of happy coincidence, Christmas is a Friday this year, so this episode will actually be going out on Christmas Day itself. Unfortunately, due to scheduling reasons, I'm actually recording this 2 weeks early on December the 11th, so the decorations won't actually be going up until tomorrow. Sorry about that.
At least it spares me the indignity of that Santa hat.
Oh, come on, you love that hat as much as I do.
Granted, but then you don't have to wear it in public.
At this festive time of year, it always feels right to look back on the year gone and put some games in a list. So, I'm going to do the exact same thing I did last year. Best of this week, worst of next week. And as with last year, the rules are the same. A game on this list doesn't matter if it came out in 2015 or not, provided this was the year that I played it for the first time and it was covered on this channel as part of a play and review series. That means that games like Space Marine won't be included on this list in spite of getting a full series, in spite of how much I enjoy it. And with that little rule out of the way, let's start at the top with number 6.
Number 6. Deus Mashina Demonbane.
A lot of people will probably be surprised to see this one on the list, and I'll freely admit I ummed and ahed for quite a long time as to whether or not to include it. But, in spite of the one major problem I have with it, I can't deny that I actually really started to enjoy it towards the end, especially some of the action sequences. Even if I still wish I was playing them, I'm not going to deny that they are very well written, and especially while narrating, it's pretty easy to really get into and really enjoy. If it wasn't for the way that it handled the sexual content, I think it would have been quite a bit higher on this list. But as it stands, it's still pretty good and enjoyable. If it ever comes out on Steam with one of those all ages versions, I will be very happy to recommend it. Until then, well, you'll need a higher tolerance for that kind of thing than I have.
Number 5. Lone Wolf.
Mobile port tends to be something of a dirty word to the PC community. As a general rule of thumb, it means bad, lazily put together, and often very, very simple. This is not the case with Lone Wolf. It tells an engaging, if admittedly relatively straightforward story that allows you to build your character in a number of different ways, and it allows you to choose how that story plays out. While I will freely admit that you can tell it was originally designed with a touchscreen in mind, the controls actually aren't that bad, especially once you get used to them. And because the game does a pretty good job of easing you in, you're not really going to run into any major control scheme issues. At the end of the day, I really enjoyed Lone Wolf. It was simple, but it was very enjoyable. And as a result, I'd be perfectly happy to recommend it.
Number 4. Hyperdimension Neptunia Rebirth 1.
This game is weird. That was my first thought. Many hours into the game, I had changed my opinion. This game is really weird, but in all honesty, to me, it actually got more and more endearing as it got stranger. I'll be honest, if you don't like meta humour, this is not the game for you. But if you're like me and you do enjoy it, this game is absolutely adorable. And while I'm not a fan of the grindy nature of some of the combat itself is actually really well put together. And frankly, it's charming and endearing enough to see you through the dull moments.
Number 3. Remember Me.
Sometimes you come across a game with a solid foundation and some really interesting ideas. And Remember Me really is an excellent example of this, with, and I cannot compliment them enough on this, a female lead who is at no point sexualized. Well, except by the game's box art anyway, but as he pointed out last week, people who commission box art are idiots. As a result, I really like Remember Me. It's got some solid, interesting ideas, and Nilin is a damn fine protagonist, and frankly, I would have been really interested in seeing a sequel that really took advantage of the memory manipulation idea. Sadly, we're probably not going to get one, but hey, I can live in hope.
Number 2. Sunrider Academy.
I am a fan of reading fan fiction. I am not, however, used to it being made by the original creators of the content. Because let's be honest, that's what Sunrider Academy is. It's a high school alternate universe fanfic. And it's a good one. It takes the characters, puts them in a completely different situation, and manages to get a hell of a lot of humour and enjoyment out of it. It's also sexy enough to get me in trouble with YouTube because, well, let's face it, they're kind of a bunch of prudes at times. Sunrider Academy is a damn fine, enjoyable game, and if it wasn't for the fact that management sims really aren't my genre, I suspect it would probably have taken this year's top slot. Instead, however, that's going to someone else. Better luck next time, Love in Space. Assuming you can actually manage to get Liberation Day out by then.
Number 1. Tales from the Borderlands.
I was not expecting much from Tales from the Borderlands. I figured it would be cute and enjoyable and probably not much more than that. I was very wrong. Tales from the Borderlands is fantastic, and in my opinion, it's probably Telltale's best game. The reason for that is that it shows the Borderlands universe from a whole new angle, and it manages to introduce a lot of really well-written, really endearing characters who I would love to see in future installments of the game. It's also laugh-out-loud funny on a lot of occasions, and frankly, it also has enough major effects on the universe that I really want to see what happens as a result of it. Overall, it's easily the best thing I've played this year, and I would heartily recommend it, even to those who aren't fans of the main Borderlands games.
What? No Sakura game on this list?
Yeah, I think you can probably guess which list they are going to end up on. That was the best games that I played on the channel this year. If you have your own lists of best of games, please feel free to leave them in the comments. And until then, I think I only have one thing left to say. Merry Christmas, one and all. Now, if you'll excuse me, I may be shooting this 2 weeks in advance, but I still feel like I've got a hell of a lot to do before I actually get to Christmas Day myself. I'll see you later.